Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is On. I'm one of the program managers. We'll have Brian Eads today walk us through today's topic, which is Power BI embedded in PlanStreet. That's our new functionality, and I guess Brian is going to walk you through how you can access that and create new reports and tables and export the data and so forth. Brian, you're on mute. If you are talking, we can't hear you.
Nope, sorry about that. I wasn't talking, but I've unmuted myself now.
Cool. All right, just make sure you can share your screen and then I'll just pass on to you.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. I'll be sharing my screen here. Just a second.
And just if you have any questions, there is a Q&A tab here. You can raise your hand, ask any question, and we'll get back to you either during the webinar towards the end, or we can always reach out to you via email as well.
Okay. So everyone should be able to see my screen now. And this is, if you're familiar with PlanStreet, this is just the kind of landing page for most case managers where you see your active list of cases. And to access the Power BI reporting tool, you're going to go up to this top icon here, which is called Dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. This is like everything else in the system. It is permission based. You have permissions to either allow people to view what's on the dashboard, or you have people the right to create reports. If they can create reports, basically if they have anything other than view, then they can go in and basically have full permissions to edit or do whatever they need to do. So when we first start this off, you'll see whatever this first landing page is with whatever reports you have on there. So I'm going to go over here and click edit. And that's going to give me access to go in and actually edit this type of report. And down here, you can see that you have the ability to put reports on different pages. So the way that I see most people utilizing this is if you have 3 or 4 people that go in and do specific reports, a lot of times they'll go in and make their own page. And they can make as many pages as they need. You can go in and rename the page and call it whatever you want. And you can go in and set up your reports. So like, for example, I've got 2 pages here where I kind of work and create various things. And it's different than the other pages that are on here. So for example, if I click on this first page, I can see this is a report that someone else has done. And this looks like a case count based on various intake values over here that they're dividing up. I am going to focus over here on primarily on these 2 pages right here. This is where I've built most of my visuals or reports. So I'm going to just click over onto this page here, first of all. And what I've done is I've basically just created some sample graphs and different, using some of the different visualizations that Power BI provides you inherently. And the main things that you need to get out of today's process are getting familiar with where the columns are and what the information is. So the general process in building any report that you do, whether it be a textual report where it's just, kind of like an Excel layout of data fields, or if it's going to be a graph, is you're going to start off by selecting the fields, setting your filters, and then placing those columns where you want them. So over here, you'll see we've got our fields, which this is a drop down. This is where all of your data is housed. And then we have our filters here, and then we have our actual visualizations. So I can go over here, any one of these are all just different visualizations that I took from over here. And so I'm going to drop this down so that you can see these are all the columns that are available within the system. Some of them will be applicable to you, some of them will not be. The 2 main ones that people are going to use heavily are your intake data and your forms data. Okay. So there's a couple of columns that you need to familiarize yourself with. There is the intake column and the intake value. And then there is the form name, form column, and form value. So these 6 fields are what you're going to use most often. And the intake column one is basically that provides you a list of all of your intake fields. So any question that's asked on the intake, those will be able to be pulled out of that intake column selection. And then the answers to those questions reside in the intake value table. So this table and this table right here. So let's go and look. Like I'm going to click on this one right here so you can kind of see how this plays out. So over here, we can see that I have, let me click a different one that's, okay, yeah. So on this one, I've got the intake column and I've selected that up here. And then I've got the intake value here. And then the actual values, I'm using the count of case name. Anytime that you're wanting to get a count of like how many cases or how many items or how many of that, you're always going to have your count of cases set in the values. And it's almost always going to be count distinct. So that way it counts them as individual items. So on this report right here, I'm counting the total number of, I'm counting gender by case, basically is what this is. So what I've done is I've selected the intake column. And over here, under my filters, you can see that I've got it down and I've just selected gender. If I, go in here and turn this off and go into basic filtering and refresh this would show me, a lot more things out of this intake column, but we're just going to keep this at gender for now. So I'm only looking at gender. Up here on the case names, I am looking at all cases, so I'm not going to filter anything there. And then down here under the intake value, you can see, let me make sure I click on this one. Yeah, under the intake column down here, if I scroll down here, you'll see I've only got my gender stuff selected. So if I go over here and type in like female, you can see I've got female selected, I've got transgender, and I've got male, which were the three options for this particular intake. And so I'm only selecting those. So I'm just filtering out for that. And this is the report that I get here. And so it's giving me that the total case, there's 3 people that are female in this particular database. There's 1 person that's reported as male and 1 is reported as trans female. And if I need to take this report, I can always come down here and I can go in. I can show this as a table if I want. If I select that, then it's going to pull up this information. It's going to give me those counts in a little table right here. And this, if I'm done looking at this, I can just click back to report. It takes me back to my main page. Any of this information also, I can click on here and I can export this data out. So if I want to export it out to to an Excel table or something like that, do something else with it, I can. If I want to just get rid of this graphic altogether, I can just remove this one from my report completely if I like. And it gives you a lot of other options in here about being able to sort. If I wanted to sort this, alphabetically, or if I wanted to sort it ascending or descending. So you have a lot of control within every one of these. But the main things to point out here is that we selected our intake column and then we selected our intake value. So from the intake column, I'm just saying I just want to see gender. I set that up over here in my filter. And then for the intake value, I just select the values that I wanted from that first selection. And that's all that I'm looking at. And that's basically what you do for any report that you want to build. So if you come over here, for example, if you're looking at a pie chart like this one, for example, is based off of activity cards, right? So over here, you can see when you click on the graphic, it shows you under the visualizations what you're doing. So for details, I've selected the activity status, which you can see right here. We've got complete, in progress, new, and blank, which you can turn off in the filters. And then for the values, I've got the actual activity. I can come over here and arrow over any of these and it'll tell me, so the activity status of new, I've got 71 activities in that status. If I want to come over here to see in progress, I've got 15 activities in that. And you can just arrow over and each one will give you the tooltip with the answer. And again, you can go through and export it out to a data if you need to, export it out to a table, whatever you need to do. And this is just a couple of examples of things that we've gone through and done. Like this is what's called a waterfall. Pulled over from from these graphics over here, like this waterfall chart. And so basically a change in the number of activities, right? So, and again, you can arrow over each one and it gives you the activity name and the amount of change, like whether those activities have been removed or what have you. And this one's kind of a longer report, so it actually gives you a scroll bar here, so I can keep going all the way down here because it's done by date, and there was a lot of dates and activities in the system. Over here, I'm doing a simple count of how many cases are applicants, how many are active, and how many are archived. So here we can see for applicants, I've got 3 total applicants in my system. I have 15 actual cases that are active, and I've got 1 that's actually archived. Or 2, sorry, 2 that are archived. So it's really easy for you to go through and